Well, I walked into this episode of Most Notorious Talker, just honestly watching because it's one of the rare Monday shows. I was like, hey, why not? Probably have some like edgy self-insert, maybe power fantasy. And honestly, from minute one, episode one of this show was looking good. It looked fun, but I was still like, oh, it'll just be a mindlessly fun show. That ending has me sold. The idea of like, even just the idea of Seekers kind of being like, your MC's job is essentially to do buffs, to enhance the other party. Apparently, they're the weakest of combat fighters. We know anime, we know this dude's gonna be probably the biggest of dogs out there, let's be honest. He's gunslinging, he's wielding, he's buffing his pals, and then I guess, the dream of, I want to start a clan. Takes like 20 million of their currency. I'm gonna front up an extra 7 million, you use the stuff we've built together. And the fact that he ends up getting betrayed by his party, seemingly, they up and take the money, except for the biggest douchebag in the party. He's the only loyal one, seemingly. Basically, this show has become, betrayed by my party, I start the world's best clan in spite of them. That seems to be the direction we're going, and that ending has me immediately sold on episode 2. I do have those full live reactions over on Patreon. If you want to see my full and good thought to any of these episodes, it's going to be over there exclusively. I think this will be a fun one to talk about, but obviously, as I say, if it doesn't do well on YouTube, we will obviously only watch it over there. So if you do want more videos on this, make sure you show that support. So overall, Noel as a character, he doesn't quite fit in this one easy to read category. He's like 3 or 4 different MCs I've seen in the past handful of years, kind of crammed into one. So sometimes he has that, like, I'm sure I'm not the only one who will feel this, but when Walter and him, when they're having dinner initially, they're kind of like throwing hands. Like, that's basically Eren and Reiner from Attack on Titan back in Season 1, like, butting heads. And I don't say that as an insult, but there's a lot of that. I'm like, okay, here's this, like, kind of, okay, trollish nature, little hot-headed nature, but then at the same time, very cool, calm, and collected. He's a lot of different MCs all in one. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm sure over time I'm going to say, okay, he's definitely his own unique person. But if for the foreseeable future, I just think to myself, oh, he reminds me of this dynamic, or he reminds me of this character, I could be fine with that, to be honest, because it seems like there's a complexity about his character that lets him be the serious dog, who probably can pull a gun on you and say, give me back the money or I'm pulling the trigger, as seen by the fact that he did quite literally say, I'm going to take all of the funds that I put into our pot if you don't do this. Otherwise, we're going to go buy us a clan. He does have that intimidating aura when he needs to, but at the same time, I mean, his character design, as even Grandpa says, reminds Grandpa of the mother. So, like, he does have that kind of more, like, soft look to him, so he also is clearly going to have that a part of his personality, too. But in general, I like the MC, and I think just kickstarting off with this, like, beautiful animation of, I mean, here's the thing. Anime loves to have the same skeletons, goblins, orcs, whatever the hell else they're gonna fight. When the show kickstarts and I can't even tell you what they're fighting, that's a good sign. Not because they're poorly drawn or anything, but because the designs are actually so unique, I'm like, I have no damn idea. When they called those, like, Cyclops-looking things vampires, I was like, if that's what a vampire in this world, I look forward to seeing what a slime is in this world, because this show clearly isn't playing by the traditional rules. Beautiful lighting, great looking character designs, and honestly, the opening? Gotta be honest, that thing feels like it would have been airing in an anime surrounding, like, when Death Note was around, like, when it was first airing. Very old school sounding song, but really fits the mood of it. I like the idea of what they did with the Seeker abilities. So it's not the first time, it's not gonna be the last time we have a character who does buffs to their party. And at the end of the day, a blind man can see. You don't need to have seen a lot of fantasy shows to know that this man's going to be the strongest of the strong someday. But the idea that, as it stands, he is listed as the weakest class, and he does buffs. So when the smoke comes in, it's like some poisonous gas. He obviously isn't talking. They're talking shit. I think it was all Walter talking shit, mind you. And once he gets out of there, he buffs. He's like, okay, this does 25%. This does 25%. This lets them, So it's all about commanding. He's basically a player playing a video game, but he's kind of a part of it because he's commanding his troops, telling them what to do, and these commands in return enhance the actual combat. And that's a cool mechanic for something, just a little bit of a twist, nothing crazy, but enough to say, okay, yeah, like, you could have easily just thrown this dude with a couple of guns and said, oh, he's a gunslinger and he likes to shoot real quick. But instead, they gave him something that makes him a little more standoutish than what I think a lot of these authors would do. The general party didn't actually give me red flags. Walter was the only one who gave me red flags initially, because what I thought, so we have Tanya, who she was the only one initially at face value to say no to let's start a clan, right? Because basically the way it works is they kind of get the scraps of everyone else because they're not their own clan. But in order to have it, you have to have a place for your guild. You have to spend 20 million in terms of just buying the ability to do so. It's a lot to invest. I don't even necessarily blame these two for apparently turning tail and running, because it could definitely put them into bankruptcy and all that hard work was for nothing. I still say pull a gun on them in terms of the anime plot, but I understand where they're coming from. Walter was this like, he was hot-headed, but immediately I understood. I was like, if you just have a party that always gets along, at least in terms of the intro, then yeah, it could grow just being like another power fantasy. So having a character actually challenge your MC and say, screw you, boss, I understood his point. At this point, it definitely feels like the other two are guaranteed not going to be a part of whatever the new clan is. I'm not sure about Walter, though, because Walter doesn't seem like the type of guy who wants to screw over Noelle, but at the same time, I don't think Walter is the type of guy who can play with Noelle long term and have a functioning party. I've seen worse happen, but, you know, it very well could be a situation that by the end of episode 3, or however long it's going to take to catch up with them, get the money back, and whatever else is going to happen, we could just try a completely fresh start and say, you know what, we don't even want Walter. Who knows? Walter turned out to be the best boy out of the 3, though, which is surprising. I did see it coming, but I didn't see it coming until, like, quite literally 3 seconds until they revealed what happened. So, there's this shot of him nervous when he accepts the deal, but I figured, because what the dude ends up saying, their leader, is the day after tomorrow, we'll meet up, we'll hash out, you know, all the finer details, and then we'll make this official. In hindsight, that's sus. That gives them time to grab the money and run. Of course. But to me, what I thought was happening was that the leader wasn't completely sold, but what he wanted was enough, because if you just do it the next day, Noelle's not going to change his mind. But if you give the guy 48 hours to maybe cool down a bit, maybe then you can have a talk and maybe convince him otherwise. I thought that's what they were doing. And immediately that all went into my head, and like 10-20 seconds later, Walter busts through the door, God damn it, we have bad news. And I'm like, yep, they screwed us, didn't they? So I found that to be a pretty fun twist. I don't know, this was a good episode. I wouldn't say it's like the perfect episode, did no wrong, but it's like I wouldn't necessarily change certain things about it, and I think it has a good formula and foundation to work off of and create something that could be a banger. If not, maybe it'll just be a mindlessly fun show, and honestly, there's not a lot airing on Monday, so I'm kind of okay having that. Let me know what you thought down below. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got Fabian, Devin Mitchell, Tony X, Spectra, Monty7, Perrin, and we also have Anonymous. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care. You all have a good one.